Hi, and welcome to today's Parent, where we provide you with information and connect you with experts to make your parenting journey a bit more easier. In today's show, we'll be talking about food allergies. I know it's something that a lot of parents are struggling with, and in today's show, we have an expert in studio who's going to be of great help to you. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Betty Okere, our nutritionist of the day.
Thank you.
You are well?
Yes, I'm well.
Thank you so much for making time to come, and I'm sure we're going to learn a lot from you.
Oh, definitely. We will try.
Awesome. So let's take it from the beginning. What is a food allergy?
So when we're talking about food allergy, we are talking about an unpleasant occurrence or reaction by your body after ingesting a certain type of food.
Right.
And normally that is because your body is looking at that protein in that food as a foreign body, which needs to be fought. Just the same way you would have an infection when you're ill, and then your body produces antibodies to fight that infection, and then you have an unpleasant reaction. Maybe you have too much fever, or you're feeling feverish, or too cold, too hot.
Okay.
So that's the same reaction you'd get. But when we're talking about food allergies, it only occurs when you've ingested a certain type of food. Of course, some foods will have more allergic reaction than others, and we tend to call them allergens. So we have those things we know as common allergens.
Allergens. So let's stop there. So when it comes to food allergies, what types of food allergies are there?
So it can range from any type of food, and then usually we will classify allergies as moderate, severe, or just mild. And in very rare cases do we get very severe reactions.
Okay.
Because once somebody gets an allergic reaction to food, you tend to want to avoid that food.
Okay.
Unless maybe now you ingest it and you ingest it unknowingly.
Okay.
But usually people will try to avoid that. Now, most people who have a food allergy, after they take that food, they'll probably be scratching, or you start developing hives.
Okay.
That's the reddish, pimple-like skin irritation that occurs.
Okay.
Looks like you're in a cold place and you have sort of goosebumps,
all right.
but they're red, sharp at the tip, and very, very itchy.
Okay.
So it's basically the discomfort that an allergic reaction causes that makes people want to deal or treat it, or not avoid the foods that would give them that reaction. For some people also, they might end up having fever, or they might end up having stomach problems, and all that. But then, so what foods really would cause an allergic reaction?
Yeah, what particular foods?
And the allergies are caused in some people and not in others.
Of course, but are there common foods that cause food allergies?
Yes,
Like
the common ones will be dairy products. That's where you have your milk, your cheese, and any other product that is made out of milk. We also have nuts. Okay, and here they're in two categories.
Right.
So you either have the tree nuts.
Tree nuts.
Yes, so the nuts which grow off trees.
Can I say macadamia?
Macadamia is one of them. Pistachios, Brazilians.
Okay.
So they grow off trees. So we have really people who are allergic to that. But we also have peanuts, which actually are considered legumes. Okay, so peanuts can also give you an allergic reaction.
Okay.
And therefore, it would be anything that has been made out of the nuts, or something that has been made or manufactured in a place where they also handle nuts. Because then it depends how much of that food will actually give you an allergic reaction.
Right.
For some people, even just a small amount of that food, that protein in that food, will give you the allergic reaction.
Okay.
Then, of course, we have fish. Fish is also a known common allergen. And whether it's fresh...
Some type of fish, or...
Any fish can actually cause you an allergy. So it really depends. But yes, we have fresh fish can cause you an allergy. But the most common one is the shellfish.
Shellfish.
Yes, those ones are covered in shells. The shrimps, the lobsters.
So more of seafood.
Yeah, more of seafood. That will also cause you an allergy. We have eggs. And remember, it's not possible to go through all the foods that actually will give you an allergic reaction.
Yeah.
So we have eggs. We also have chicken.
I would not want to be allergic to chicken.
And I know why, but we'll not talk about that today. So yes, there's also chicken. And then some people, which is now becoming very common, are also allergic to wheat, and others gluten.
Interesting.
Yes.
Which takes me back to the point of, when you're defining an allergy, what is the difference between an allergy and a food intolerance?
Okay, so the signs and symptoms of both allergy and food intolerance tend to intermarry. Sometimes somebody has bloating, stomach cramping, or they have hives or some skin irritation.
Okay.
It can either be an allergy or a food intolerance.
Okay.
But when we're looking at it to try and separate, you'll notice that the allergy will attack the immune system.
Okay.
All right. So as much as it will be maybe your stomach has got issue, but more it is the immune system that has been interfered with, and so
Right.
your body is overproducing the antibodies to try and fight that foreign object. When we are talking about an intolerance, we are talking about you not being able to stand certain amounts of the food. And usually it will affect your digestive system, the GI tract. That's your gut, your stomach, the esophagus, the intestines, so everything in between. But rarely, in fact, not at all will a food intolerance affect your immune system.
Interesting.
Yes.
Because I found at the moment a lot of parents with young children, conversations I've had with a few people, it's that my child has become or is milk intolerant. And these are things we never used to struggle with before. We just used to take milk. But then suddenly you are seeing, in my opinion, you're seeing a lot of children are becoming lactose intolerant. Where did that come from? Is it something that is suddenly new? It's been there and we didn't know about it?
Maybe we were not looking so far we are not looking so far to try and see if the children have a problem with milk or that. Or then if they had the problem, maybe we did not consider it a problem. You drink milk and a child says, I have a stomachache, we probably assumed they are too full or they don't want to eat.
Yeah.
But now our medical or health-seeking behaviors have improved, so more and more parents are becoming conscious about what their children are going through and how they can be able to help them with that. So we talk about lactose intolerance, for example, and most parents will actually come and say, I think my child is allergic to milk. Now, there's a difference when you're allergic to milk and when you just have an intolerance. If you're allergic to milk, mostly anything that would have that milk would cause you a reaction. Okay, and it would not have to just do with the digestive system. It would be much more. Maybe after so long, you'll be scratching. And maybe something else that we need to make our viewers get to know is that an allergy will usually occur like in the first 30 minutes to 2 hours
after you've consumed
that food.
Okay.
But when you're looking at an intolerance, you can consume it depending on the amounts, and only the next day will you notice
react to it.
There's something wrong. Or then it will not be very severe.
Yeah. Okay.
So when a parent comes and says, my child has got an allergy to milk, you really want to ascertain. When you gave them milk, what is it that you saw? What happened? And within what span of time, so that you really ascertain if it is an intolerance or an allergy.
Okay.
And also, there are tests that are conducted. You can actually visit an allergist or an immunologist to try and do tests on this child. It could be blood tests, which usually are not very accurate, or you want to do a prick test, skin prick test, to try and see exactly what is this child allergic to and to what extent. And it's actually a prick test, just like how I'm saying it. They'll prick your skin, and put some proteins from the different types of food and see how they rupture, how do they react, does it swell more? And then they measure that swelling and determine how much allergic reaction you will get from that food.
Because I'm just imagining if I have a child, a small child, how can I tell, of course this child possibly is very small, how can I tell my child or my baby is having an allergic reaction? How can you tell?
Usually, when somebody eats food, they're just supposed to be fine. They're supposed to be well fed and be very relaxed and easy. But what happens when you're feeding a child and then they are uneasy? Either they're crying, or that depends on what you're really giving them and how much. So they're either crying or they have this discomfort. They start to scratch, or you start to see rashes on their body. That shouldn't be normal. Because normally when somebody is fed, they're just supposed to be fine.
Yes.
Yes. So if you look, you can easily self-diagnose an allergic reaction or an intolerance to some particular type of food. So we don't wait until it is out of hand. Maybe you give milk, for example, and this child starts having diarrhea, or they start having stomach rumbles. And this only happens when you give them or you expose them to this particular food. Then you know there is a problem.
I'm wondering if that's an allergy or an intolerance.
It could be both. It could be both. But then in an intolerance situation, really, it would take some time.
Yeah.
Or how much have you given the child, so that now they're bloating and they're passing wind so much, and it only appears when you give them this milk. So then you ask yourself, if I reduce the amount, does it make it better?
Yes.
If it does, probably it is an intolerance. If it doesn't, it is persisting, then maybe, there's something which is a problem. But then again, as a parent, what would you do to try and make sure that that doesn't happen? Of course, after the 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, we all want to feed. And what I normally tell mothers, this child has got a lifetime to be eating.
Right.
Yeah? So you can't be there trying everything
at
and
the same
anything
time.
at the same time, all mixed up. Then your child gets a reaction. You really cannot point to one thing. You will want to be led by the fact that I think I put milk in this and milk will give me an allergy. So it could be anything else. Could be anything else.
Right.
So you just, feed small bits, introduce a food, see the reaction. Sometimes you probably even just want to give a spoon, wait 10 to 15 minutes. This child is going to be there and the food is there. See how they react, and then you make a decision based on that.
We have a question from one of our viewers. Jemima in Moranga, she asks, is it possible to outgrow a food allergy issue? Betty?
Yes. Actually, it is possible to outgrow all allergies, because then how much do you expose yourself to that allergy? The more rare it is to expose yourself to that allergy, the better. And also, I know most of us see allergies mostly in children. That doesn't mean that you cannot develop allergic reaction to food as an adult.
Right.
Because so many things may have changed along the way, and your body might not have the same strength that it had when you're probably much younger. So yes, you can actually outgrow food allergies. And sometimes maybe the exposure to that, allergic or allergen, the exposure to that allergen will help the body's immune system to boost itself and help fight that better. So sometimes you also probably just want to give your child that which is considered an allergen way early into life, so that the body has got a way of dealing with it, expose it to fire so that it knows how to deal with fire. Yeah. So you don't really wait for so long, the baby is 1 year, you've never given them an egg. And then when you give them past the 1 year, now they start reacting to it. So you probably want to introduce it early, small amounts, wait for the reaction, give time in between, and then try it again and see what that reaction is. The goodness with giving it in small bits and in small amounts is that then if there is a reaction, it will not be as severe as if you just decided I'll give my child a full plate of, eggs. Okay. Yeah. And as I'm talking about eggs, and if you can outgrow that, maybe you want to start with the eggs separately. Okay. Usually the yolk will have a more reaction than the white. So you want to start, yes. Okay. So you want to start with the white and see, does it give a reaction? And then or sometimes just give the whole thing, but in small amounts. Let's see how that works. You probably want to boil first as opposed to frying, because again, the more things you introduce to this food, the more you would be more likely to get a reaction. Okay. So you probably want to boil first. That's just water, nothing else, and then see the reaction. Then later on, when you're certain that they can stand the fat, then you can add in the fat. Okay. Yes.
The one thing that you've said that I know we need to emphasize is when it comes to managing food allergies, is then finding a way to introduce, bits of food little by little, especially when we're moving post weaning.
Yes.
Then introducing the food slowly by slowly, and then gauging what your child reacts to. But then when it happens that these episodes keep happening, your child is, having these allergic reactions, I'm sure there are ways as a mom, as a dad, I need to manage at home, even before getting to hospital. Are there tips you can share when it comes to managing allergic reactions, even at home?
So sometimes you just want to see if a child has reacted to something. One of the most common ones that parents will always have is an antihistamine in the house.
Right.
Yes. And usually what are histamines? Histamines are just chemical reactions or chemicals that will be produced by our bodies in response to something that is foreign or an infection that occurs.
Right.
So everybody has got histamines anyway, you'll have that chemical release. But sometimes it is in excess. That's why now you start having the skin irritations, you know, reddening and swelling. Some people even swell, the lips, the tongue swells,
Oh,
you know,
that
they
must
have
be
difficulty.
dangerous.
Yes, so when it gets to that, and really that's very severe.
Yeah.
Or then you have breathlessness, you having difficulties trying to breathe, and some people even can end up having low blood pressure.
Right.
Ideally, that's why the anaphylactic shock kills you. Yeah. So when that happens, that is very extreme, and that's an emergency situation. You really just have to be in hospital. But if it is at home, I have given a child maybe some chicken.
Right.
And then because you're just starting complementary feeding after exclusive breastfeeding. And I give this 1 teaspoon of chicken to this child.
Right.
And after 10, 15 minutes, they are scratching, or, you know, the body has hives all over.
Yeah.
Then I would probably want to stop and see if it becomes severe or not. Is it accompanied by a fever? If it is, then I need to take the child to hospital.
Okay.
It is not accompanied by fever, but I have some antihistamine in the house.
You can
give
manage
that
at home.
and wait. Really, just avoiding what will give you that allergic reaction is what we need to really try and ensure that mothers are doing what parents are doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
The kind of questions we need to ask if I am a parent who has a child who's having allergic, you know, food allergy issues, what kind of questions do I need to ask my pediatrician, my doctor? What kind of key questions do I need to ask when I get to hospital?
It would be nice if you were able to discuss with your doctor what anaphylactic shock is all about, because that's the extreme emergency that comes with food allergies.
Anaphylactic shock.
Or anaphylaxis. Okay, so you can get into anaphylactic shock.
Okay.
Really, at this point is when now the person is not able to breathe.
Okay.
Maybe their tongue and their lips is swollen. They start losing the blood pressure, so it's no longer high, starts going low, and that can lead to death. So nobody really knows when you will get that shock or what amount of that food that you're allergic to will give you that shock.
Okay.
But what you should know as a person who's allergic to any type of food, you can get an anaphylactic shock. You can.
Wow.
All right? So what it is advisable for people who've ever had that shock before, always work with an epinephrine pen, because then you just give yourself that shot and it helps the body to, you know, relax a bit as you try to make your way to hospital. What happens if it is the first time and it is at home?
Right.
Just call 911. Just make sure you have an ambulance and you're on your way to hospital, and very fast. Don't wait, okay? So yes, I'll have hives and scratching, but what else is going on? The child is scratching, yes, but are they able to breathe properly?
Okay.
Are they gasping for breath?
Right.
Is there fever? Is there, you know, confusion or irritability? Just rush them to hospital. Don't really wait until it is that severe. When it comes to intolerances, really you don't get any emergency situations with intolerance.
Yeah.
But then some groups of people will have more susceptibility to intolerance as opposed to others. There is a group that has an autoimmune condition called celiac. Celiac, where your intestines are not able to really, you know, digest that food that you're consuming.
Okay.
For that group of people, you really want to be very careful with them. Or then other people have irritable bowel syndrome.
Right.
It's extreme constipation or extreme on watery loose stools. So again, we just have to be careful about that. And people who already have a history of an allergic complication, either to the environment or people who are asthmatic, are more likely to have more allergies to food than any other group of people. Or if a child is coming from a family that already has asthma, eczema, you know, any other allergies, they can easily have it. Yeah, they're more susceptible to it.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Betty, so much. We are going to take a short break and we'll be back right after this. Welcome back to today's Parent. On today's show, we've been talking about food allergies, causes, and how to manage food allergies. And in today's show, we've been having Betty Okere, who's a nutritionist with a wealth of knowledge. Welcome back to the show.
Asante sana.
And as we wind up, let's talk about treating. Should we talk about treating food allergies, managing, or both? Where does it start from?
We can actually outgrow our food allergies. So, well, if it started when the person was still a child, we have a better chance. Okay, and how do we expose them to that particular food? That would really, much help us around with whether we will outgrow it or not.
Okay.
But it starts from the beginning.
Okay.
What is the history? What is the health history of the family of this child? One of the things that you want to do, you're coming from a family where either one or both of the parents have got issues to do with asthma or eczema, then you have to be on a high alert.
Okay.
That when you're introducing the foods that are considered allergens, you really watch out for what the reaction is.
Yeah.
And if there's no reaction, keep giving.
Okay.
And, you clear them off the way. And if then the child showed signs of eczema, you probably want to treat that eczema well. So a food allergy will not cause eczema. But the presence of eczema will actually predispose you to getting food allergies and all the other allergic reactions anyway from the environment and God knows what else.
Interesting.
Right? So you probably want to treat the eczema very well. Try and identify what causes it. Is it the clothes that the child is wearing?
Okay.
Is it the washing powders that you're using or soaps that you're using or the oil that you're applying on the baby? Just try and find out what is causing it and try to minimize it as much as is possible. That really helps with managing the allergies. Also, you're not really able to treat allergies, but as we had said earlier, you can use your histamines to try and reduce that unpleasant reaction and circumstance that the child has to be in.
Right.
Because then if they're not scratching, they're not sleeping very well because they're scratching the whole night, they'll not sleep, and that lack of sleep will even just make it worse.
It will make it worse.
Because the body has not rested for it to be able to repair itself. And we cannot overemphasize the need for exclusive breastfeeding.
That helps.
That really helps big time. Why? Remember, in allergic reactions, especially food allergies, or any other allergy for that matter, the baby's immune system is trying to fight something foreign.
Okay.
When a child is born, their immune system cannot be able to fight anything in the environment. It is so fragile and, so sensitive.
Right.
What do we do as parents to be able to make sure that the immune of this child is built? We have to do exclusive breastfeeding because the milk comes with all the protection that a child needs to be able to defend themselves from what is in the environment. So if we are capable of doing that, really it is recommended even by WHO, 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, and that means exclusive, not even water.
Yes.
Because the breast
milk
is
very
come
hard
with
for
water.
Parents. People look at their kids and they're like, yeah, this baby must be thirsty.
It must be thirsty. Who defines that really?
The 6 months without water.
But what is milk predominantly? It's fluid.
Yes.
There's a lot of water. So anyway, that's a topic for another day. Yes. So just, breastfeed your child as much as you can. And again, WHO says if you can continue for up to 24 months, even as you're doing complementary feeding. And 24 months is basically 2 years. And beyond. There is no harm in
breastfeeding an older child.
Yeah. Well, if there are other children, then you might have to negotiate. But really, nothing overtakes the role of breastfeeding in trying to prevent allergies or even food allergies. Then the last one is avoiding. That which makes you have a food allergy, just avoid it. Identify what it is, know the trigger, and then just omit it from your diet. But you also have to be careful so that it is actually food A that is causing me that allergic reaction and not B. And that's why we said when you're starting complementary feeding, first of all, start with what ordinarily will not give you an allergy.
Yeah.
If you're given the option of starting wheat at complementary feeding versus starting just your normal pulses and grains, you probably want to start with your grains first before you go to the wheat.
Right.
Because then you're very sure if there's an allergic reaction, it is very minimal. Again, don't be lied to. Most foods actually still have got proteins in them. And the body can react to any protein. Yeah. Even that maize, which seems like very harmless, it has got the germ, which is a protein.
Right.
So some children can actually be very extreme and be allergic to that. So just start slowly, see what is happening. You can give a tablespoon of that food to a child today. Give it again tomorrow. Wait for 2 days, see what happens. Because it's only 6 months. you don't want to really give your child everything in the first 1 week of complementary feeding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me something. We've talked about managing food allergies. When it comes to treatment, is there a treatment?
Really, there's no one treatment that you can say will take away the food allergy. It's just basically trying to manage how the body is reacting to particular foods.
Right.
But there's really no medication that treats allergies. You just manage.
So it's just
any
something-
allergy for that matter.
It's
They
about
just manage,
managing it.
and then we hope that you can grow out of it. Because most of the times you can grow out of it. Except now that as a child, yes, they'll outgrow it. But what happens when you get allergic reactions or food allergies later in life? Because that happens.
Does it happen?
Yes, stress levels have changed as an adult, and
Okay.
that affects how you digest food. Even the intolerances might be more as an adult as opposed to when you're a child. Because what happens, somebody was able to take milk all their life,
Yeah,
and then now as an
suddenly
adult, they take
can't.
milk, they're bloating or they're cramping. The digestion has really changed. Or maybe that enzyme which is supposed to digest that food is suddenly not sufficient. Yeah, and then you're not able to digest that food. In the case of lactose, then it is the enzyme lactase. So you had it, but now there are certain amounts that you cannot be able to tolerate because maybe the function is a bit diminished. So then, as an adult, maybe it might be difficult to get out of that. Or as we talked about environmental changes, the way we are growing our foods now is different from what we were doing previously. And you will see some people, when it comes to fruits and vegetables, for example, and especially fruits, somebody will eat an orange and say they got an allergic reaction from it. Maybe it is an intolerance. And usually, because these people also have other allergies, other environmental allergies, like people who suffer from hay fever or what we call allergic rhinitis, they eat the orange, and because the back of the orange seems like it has something which looks like the pollen, then they tend to react to it. So it's not the orange. So just washing and removing the peel completely, not touching it, might help.
You know, you brought in a very important point, and if I have issues with food allergies, I think it then becomes very important to be able to read our food labels in the supermarket.
And understand them.
Because you buy, even as simple as a packet of crisps, you know the details behind them. What do you look out for when you have food allergies? What should you be, wary of?
So it depends. Are you allergic to whatever kind of proteins? Or there was a very interesting discussion sometimes back on the presence of sodium metabisulfite in our foods.
Oh, we all remember.
Yes. And well, that's because it was used in fresh and raw foods where it's not supposed to be used. But that is what is used in storing canned foods and, foods that stay on the shelves for a very long time, like the crisp, for example.
Right.
So you really want to check, does my child have asthma or any other allergy? And what happens when they take this particular food? Do they become hyperactive or hypersensitive? Do they have issues with breathing? Do they start scratching? Then you want to either reduce or just forget that particular food. Wow. So you want to see what else is in this ingredient and read up about it. We now, thank God, we are in an era where we can read.
Yes.
I'm not encouraging people to read blog spots, but it gives you an idea. Then those are the questions now. You go and ask your pediatrician, your nutritionist, your health service provider to just know, am I safe with this? What limits? And if I am not, what do I do? Some as close as food colorings. Right. You could be allergic to food colorings. And then you're eating this particular food and thinking, I'm allergic to that food. Minus the coloring, you're okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Information is power.
Yes, it is.
And with that, thank you so much, Betty, for coming in studio today and sharing with us information on matters food allergies. And with that, we come to the end of today's show. On today's Parent, we were talking about food allergies, how to spot them and how to manage them. In studio, we had Betty, our nutritionist, who then shared one very important point. If you can, especially as a mom, exclusively breastfeed. And as we come to the end of this show, we would like to thank partners who have made this show possible. Little Cribs, where we were shooting today's episode, the home of exciting, functional, and durable kids furniture. Make sure you check them out on Facebook and on Instagram. And for information when it comes to matters parenting, go to www.supermamas.co.ke.